So now we'll go back with another video. I'm Strange Wang, and it is the beginning of a new year. You know what that means. Top 10 worst films of 2020. This is my list, my personal opinions. If you like these films, sorry. But it's America, free speech. So I can say what I want to about these movies. Or really anything else in that matter. But this channel is only about movies. If you like movies, go ahead and subscribe, because that's all we talk about is movies. So with that being said, I'm going to get on my list. My number 10 is Cajillionaire. I thought this film was way too quirky for its own good, which, because of how much quirkiness she put in these characters, other parts of the film were lacking. Yes, you're getting great performances out of these characters and funny moments that don't have to be written in with dialogue, but the dialogue suffering, the story suffering, and that's how I felt watching this movie throughout. My number 9 is Birds of Prey. The same washed up, mediocre comic book shit in this movie. This movie was like a circle because it doesn't have any points. This movie has no points. This movie was just a vehicle to make Harley Quinn merchandise, I feel like. And I could do without that because I see enough Harley Quinn merchandise everywhere I go anyways, especially Halloween time. But different Halloween this year. But I hated this movie. Bored throughout. Did not want to sit in the theater to watch it. But I did. I didn't walk into any movies this year. So I guess that's good. But my number 8 is going to be The Devil All the Time. I don't know if this is more disappointment or this is a really bad movie. I'm going to chalk it up with disappointment. Why it's at my number 8 spot and higher than the others? Because this film has so much potential. Good performances. Great performances even.
Is this true?
Robert Pattinson demolishes this role. Tom Holland's very good as well. Skarsgård is very believable. Performances are good, but everything else in this film is borderline terrible. The story's all over the place. The dialogue comes off flat because you don't know where you're going with the story, and it feels forced because you're like, all right, we gotta connect this storyline, so let's steer it this way and steer it that way, and the whole time you just don't want to be sitting in your house watching Netflix because this movie's just like so much potential, and it could have been great, but it wasn't. But it was terrible, almost borderline terrible. But give it 5 years, remake it. You got a good movie on your hands, I believe. My number 7 is Capone. Tom Hardy as Al Capone blew my mind when I saw him in that trailer. This movie did not. It made me want to lose my mind, much like Capone did in the film. Not a very well paced film. Not a very good film in general. When I saw the trailer and knew what the film was about, I was thinking Shining mixed with Al Capone, gangster movies. And I think he went for that a little too hard. And it was just too all over the place for me personally. And it just didn't work. The performances minus Tom Hardy is terrible. I didn't like anyone in this film at all. I didn't feel bad for Capone. I didn't feel bad for the people that were hanging out with Capone. I didn't feel like I enjoyed the lifestyle, because for these gangster films, that's what it comes to. It comes to like you're really invested into these characters because they're cool and whatnot, and then you're like, oh man, they're doing some really bad shit, I don't like them anymore. And as an audience member, you turn with them, and this film didn't give you a chance to turn at all. It just says, here, this is what Al Capone is, right in your face, and you're just following a story with known characters to invest in, because everyone in the film is unlikable. And for this film, you need some kind of investment to really care about this senile old man, Al Capone or not. And this film doesn't do that, which is why it's on my top 10 worst of the year list. My number 6 is just a poorly made movie. Bad jokes, bad, everything in this film is bad. And it's Cubies Halloween. I didn't like a thing in this movie besides a few jokes referencing older Adam Sandler films. This film is
so fucking terrible.
My number 5 is going to be The Bench. I hated this movie with a passion because it takes everything I love from films like Animal House or Superbad, films like that, these raunchy teen comedies, even like Porky's or stuff like that from back in the day, Revenge of the Nerds. It takes these raunchy teen comedies, which I'm a huge fan of, and takes everything you love out of it. The character development, the friendship. It doesn't make anything look appealing in this film at all, which is disappointing because the reason why you watch these films are either as a child to see tits and see what it's like to be a teenager, or you're reminiscing on your teenage years, but like, oh yeah, I remember that was fun. I remember this, remember that, and it's fun memories with your entertainment, because that's what films do. They bring you back to emotions, or they make you feel emotions, and that's why these teen comedies went. And I was like, the trailer looked really, really bad, but maybe I can find some investment in it, some emotion. This film is like a soda that's been left in the refrigerator for 3 days. It is flat. Everything in this film is flat. This film is trash, like a 3-day old soda. But my number 4 is white trash. It's hillbilly elegy. I've talked about this film, I feel like, a ton. Top 5 most disappointing films of 2020. Eye in the Corner, you can go and watch that. I did a film review on this film as well. And this trailer has so much potential. It set it up very much like the film Honey Boy in 2019. One of my favorite films of that year. Much less all time, probably. I've watched that film at least 4 times since it's been out, maybe 5. I love that film. And when I saw this, I saw the potential of a more serious, less quirky version of that. A southern version, me being from the dirty South, the South so dirty you can't bathe it, as Lil Wayne says, being from the dirty South, to watch something that I've seen, people I know around me, and watch a film with these characters talking about how much they love the Terminator and whatnot. This trailer had me on a high, and it went down very low, 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 to the depths of hell, because this movie made me feel like I was in hell, because this movie is
hot garbage. Still trash.
My number 3 is another film with potential, but it fails on every cylinder, and it is Antebellum. Again, this is a good movie waiting to happen, I feel like, and especially when you add Jordan Peele's name to it and what's going on in the world today, and how it's like The Matrix, but you still got that Twilight element to it, and just how they went about the film. It's like, you did everything you shouldn't have done with this film, minus the end. And it's just like, you have a good film here. You make this film 10 times. 8 out of those 10 times, you're getting a very good movie. I feel like bad execution, bad acting, everything in this film is
terrible.
Overall, this film is
A piece of garbage.
My number 2 is going to be The New Mutants. Again, another terrible superhero movie. All the superhero movies we got this year were not good. One Woman, passable, but still not a very good movie. This movie is also very flat. Like I said before, 3-day-old soda. This film was flat. There's no character development. There's no place to put investment because all the characters are so one-dimensional and the acting's so bad, because a lot of these characters, it's their first film they've ever been in, so their acting isn't good, and the characters have no depth to them, even though you're telling me all this depth through the dialogue instead of showing me the depth. And nothing in this film works. This film is one of the worst films of 2020, and probably one of the worst films I've seen of all time. The CGI is god awful. The action isn't good. The action isn't original. Nothing in this film is really original. You know, they hyped this movie up so much in the beginning before it got delayed all those times, talking about, it's a horror movie. It's kind of like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with mutants. I'm like, that's a very interesting concept. And again, if you rewrite this movie, you probably have a good movie in here. But with this movie and the actors in this movie, you do not. And this movie sucks.
Like a prostitute.
My number 1 is A Fall from Grace, and it is the worst movie I've seen of all of 2020, along with one of the worst experiences I've had in 2020. Definitely the worst movie experience I had in 2020. This is a Netflix film about some fucking Tyler Perry Hallmark Lifetime garbage written story about marrying and cheating and stealing money and revenge and all this garbage. But the person who made me watch this movie, I don't like you very much at all. I don't like you at all because I come over, you invite me over to your house at 2 o'clock in the morning. I show up. You take me to your room. There's a stripper pole in your room. You say you need to freshen up. You come out the bathroom. You're not wearing a top. I see titties. And I'm like, stripper pole, titties. It's going to be a good night.
Makes sense.
We're not going to watch very much of this film. And ended up watching all of it because you got in bed and we started cuddling, kissing. And you were like, oh, I'm on my period. But hold on. Before that, she's like, you know, you like, because we talked a small bit before I came over. I'm a gentleman. I didn't just fucking go over right away. We talked 2 hours before we met, and then I went over. But she was like, oh, yeah, you like movies, huh? Yeah. I just saw an excellent movie. I was like, oh, what is it? She's like, I can't remember the name of it, but it's on Netflix. It should be on my recently watched. We'll watch it tonight. I'm like, cool. She just watched the movie. She probably don't want to watch it. And the whole car ride, she's like, oh, yeah, the movie's so great. I think you're going to love it. If you talk about it on YouTube channel, send it to me. I can't wait to watch it. Maybe I can come on and we can talk about movies. Cause I'm thinking now, I'm like, oh, man, like, she watches movies. Like, she probably seen Vertigo and Citizen Kane and Rocky and A Bronx Tale and Pulp Fiction, all these other films I love. These deep, meaningful drama films that hold emotion and invoke creativity, passion, emotion. This film does none of that. This film is so bad. I've never wanted to get out of bed with a girl with her tits out more in my life than watching this movie. This film is terrible. The acting is fucking high school play bad. It's nothing in this film's good. The fucking director should be fired, whoever the director is. I think it is Tyler Perry, actually. This movie is like, I don't know, my English is terrible because like my passion, it's just like the bad memories and experiences, everything is like coming back at once. I can't think of a word worse than terrible, but if I do, it's on the screen right now, and this is what this movie is, because this movie is the worst movie I've seen in a very long time. And on top of that, it's one of the worst films I think Netflix has ever put on their app. This film's terrible. And all the clips I used before, they're so fucking terrible. It sucks. Like a prostitute. Piece of garbage. Hot garbage. It's called trash. All those clips apply to this film. I had to spread them out, but if I could, I would make a montage of me saying this film and the clips following after it, because this film is so fucking terrible.
God damn!
What are your top 10 worst movies of the year? Have you had any terrible experiences watching these movies like Strange Wang has? Are some of these movies on your top 10 worst of the year? Like Strange Wang's list? Tell me down below in the comment section. Put your list down there. Scroll back up, hit that like button, share the video, and subscribe.